I often think back to 1993, sitting in a booth at a Denny's in San Jose. I was with Chris and Curtis, my co-founders. We didn't have an office. We didn't have a business plan that anyone would actually fund. What we had was a booth, bottomless cups of coffee, and a vision that the way the world computed was fundamentally broken. But before I was a CEO, and before we were building the engines of the next industrial revolution, I was a dishwasher at that very same restaurant. I was a busboy. I cleaned toilets. People often ask me how I developed the stamina to lead NVIDIA through the cycles of near bankruptcy and the skepticism of the entire semiconductor industry. The answer is simple. I learned it at the dish pit. When you are a dishwasher, you learn to do every job, no matter how humble, to the absolute best of your ability. There is no job beneath you. If you are cleaning a toilet, you clean it until it sparkles. If you are washing a mountain of greasy plates, you do it with the speed and precision of a master. You learn the dignity of hard work, and you learn that excellence is a habit, not an act. That humility, the understanding that you must be willing to do whatever it takes to make the mission succeed, is the core of our culture at NVIDIA. It is the reason we are still here. Today, we are witnessing the most significant transformation in the history of technology. We are at the dawn of a new era that I call the intelligence revolution. For the last 60 years, the world of computing has been defined by one thing, the CPU. The central processing unit was a miracle of engineering. It followed instructions. It was a general-purpose tool that allowed us to build the digital world we live in today, but we have reached a physical limit. For decades, we lived by the grace of Moore's law. We expected that every 18 months, transistors would shrink, performance would double, and power consumption would stay the same. It was a glorious free lunch, but that lunch is over. The laws of physics are non-negotiable. As we try to shrink transistors further, we run into thermal limits, into quantum tunneling, into the fundamental reality that you cannot continue to scale a serial processing architecture to meet the exponential demands of modern data. If we stayed on the path of the CPU, the cost of computing would eventually become so high that progress would stall. We would be unable to solve the world's most pressing problems, climate change, energy scarcity, the complexity of human biology, because we simply wouldn't have the computational energy to process them. This is where first principles thinking becomes essential. When you hit a wall, you don't just try to hit it harder. You go back to the physics. You ask yourself, what is the most efficient way to process information? The answer we found 30 years ago was accelerated computing. Instead of doing one thing after another very quickly, why not do thousands of things at the same time? The GPU was our answer. It wasn't just a gaming chip. It was a new way of thinking about the architecture of intelligence. We realized that if we could offload the most intensive parallel tasks to a specialized accelerator, we could achieve speed-ups of 10x, 100x, even 1000x, while using a fraction of the power. This wasn't just an incremental improvement. This was a phase shift. But to make this work, we had to do something that most companies are terrified to do. We had to build a $0 billion market. When we launched CUDA in 2006, there was no market for it. No one was asking for a general-purpose programming model for GPUs. Wall Street thought we were crazy. They asked, Jensen, why are you diverting all your R&D into this obscure software stack when you should be focusing on selling more gaming cards? My answer was that we weren't just building a chip. We were building a platform for the future of science. We spent 15 years of intense suffering and investment before the world realized that CUDA was the foundation for the AI revolution. We had the resilience to stay the course because we knew the first principles were right. We didn't care about the quarterly reports. We cared about the physics. We knew that the demand for intelligence would eventually exceed the capacity of the CPU. We were building the factory before anyone knew they needed the product. This brings us to the title of our discussion today, Humanity's Last Invention. Artificial intelligence is not just another app. It is not just another tool. It is the technology that will allow us to automate the process of discovery itself. Once we have built an intelligence that can reason, simulate, and optimize at scales human beings cannot comprehend, that intelligence becomes the primary engine for every other invention. AI will invent new materials. AI will invent new drugs. AI will invent new ways to capture carbon. In a very real sense, AI is the last invention that humanity needs to create on its own, because it will become our partner in everything that follows. But there is a profound consequence to this shift that most people are missing. For 30 years, the advice given to every student was, learn to code. We believed that computer science was the ultimate skill, the language of the future. We told you that if you could master the syntax of Python or C++, you would be the master of the machine. I am telling you that the era of coding as we know it is coming to an abrupt end. The goal of computer science has always been to make computers easier to use. We started with punch cards, then assembly, then high-level languages like Fortran and C. Each step was an attempt to bridge the gap between human thought and machine execution, but the gap was always there. You still had to think like a computer to get it to do what you wanted. Today, for the first time in history, the computer speaks our language. Generative AI and large language models have turned every human being into a programmer. If you can speak your intention, the AI can generate the code. The programming language of the future is natural language. This is a massive victory for humanity. It means that the barrier to entry for creating technology has dropped to near zero. But if everyone can code, then coding is no longer a competitive advantage. The value has shifted. The value has moved from the how to the what. In the future, the most important people in the tech industry won't be the ones who can write the most efficient compiler. They will be the ones who have the deepest domain expertise. If you are a biologist who understands the fundamental mechanisms of a virus, you can now use AI to design a vaccine without ever having to learn how to manage memory in a software program. If you are a civil engineer who wants to design a bridge that can withstand a 100-year flood, you can describe your parameters to the AI and have it simulate millions of variations in the omniverse. The domain expert is the new king. Your ability to understand a specific field, whether it is agriculture, law, medicine, or physics, is now your greatest asset. The AI provides the computing, but you must provide the direction. You must provide the intention. This is why I say, don't learn to code, learn to lead. To lead in this new era, you need a different kind of education. You need an education rooted in first principles. You need to understand how things work at their most basic level so that you can guide the AI to solve the right problems. You need the character to ask the hard questions that no one else is asking. At NVIDIA, we maintain a very flat organization to encourage this kind of leadership. I don't have a corner office. I don't have a private dining room. I am in the trenches with our engineers every single day. I don't want information to be filtered through layers of middle management. I want the ground truth. In a world moving at the speed of light, management is a latency. We need leadership at every level. We have over 30,000 employees and I have 50 direct reports. People tell me that's impossible. They say you can't manage 50 people. They're right. I don't manage them. I empower them. I give them the context, the vision, and the first principles, and then I expect them to run. You must develop the same urgency in your own life. We are in the middle of a new industrial revolution. In the first industrial revolution, we learned to harness steam and electricity to augment human muscle. In this revolution, we are harnessing accelerated computing to augment the human mind. This is an intelligence factory. Just as the power plants of the 19th century transformed every industry by providing cheap, reliable energy, the AI data centers of today are providing cheap, reliable intelligence. If you are not moving with urgency, you are standing still. In this era, waiting and seeing is a death sentence. You must run, don't walk. This urgency comes from a place of humility. You must realize that the world is changing faster than your ability to adapt to it using old methods. You have to be willing to kill your own successful ideas to make room for the future. We did this at NVIDIA many times. We moved from PC graphics to workstations, from workstations to servers, from servers to the cloud, and now from the cloud to the AI factory. Each transition was terrifying. Each transition required us to walk away from a business that was making money to chase a vision that might never materialize. But that is the work of your life. The work of your life is to build things that didn't exist before. It is to solve problems that are so difficult, so seemingly impossible, that no one else is brave enough to touch them. We call these NVIDIA class problems. These are the problems where, if we don't solve them, the world stays the same. But if we do solve them, everything changes. Think about the omniverse. We didn't build it because we wanted to make better video games. We built it because we realized that the next wave of AI is physical AI. To train robots and autonomous vehicles, they need a world to learn in. But you can't train 1 million robots in a physical warehouse. It's too slow and too expensive. You need a digital twin that obeys the laws of physics perfectly. You need a world where gravity, light, and friction are real. We built a world for the AI to live in before the AI was even ready to move in. That is the essence of visionary leadership. You identify the bottleneck of the future and you start building the solution today. As the end of computer science approaches, we are entering a period of radical empowerment. When the machine understands you, the only thing that limits you is your own imagination and your willingness to suffer through the process of creation. I want you to think about the problems in your own community, in your own country. Think about the inefficiencies that have existed for decades. Think about the diseases we still can't cure and the energy we still waste. In the past, you might have felt powerless to solve these things because you didn't have a team of 1,000 programmers. That excuse is gone. You now have a team of 1,000 programmers living inside your computer. They are ready to work for you 24/7. They don't get tired. They don't need coffee. They only need a leader. They only need someone with the domain expertise to tell them what to build. This is the great equalization. Whether you are in Silicon Valley or a small town in Colombia, you have access to the same intelligence factory that I do. The playing field is level for the first time in human history. But leveling the playing field doesn't mean the game is easier. It means the competition is more intense. It means that the people who will win are the ones who have the most grit, the ones who are the most resilient, and the ones who are willing to lean into the pain of solving a truly hard problem. When you lean into that pain, you realize that the most difficult part of any endeavor isn't the execution. It's the definition of the problem. For decades, we were constrained by the how. We spent 80% of our cognitive energy just trying to explain our ideas to the machine. We were like architects who had to spend all their time carving every single brick by hand instead of designing the cathedral. But now the bricks are carving themselves. The AI is the ultimate craftsman. This means your value is no longer in the labor of coding. It is in the clarity of your architecture. The end of computer science is a provocative statement, I know. It sounds like a retreat, but in reality, it is an advancement. It is the liberation of the human mind from the drudgery of syntax. When we no longer have to spend years learning how to talk to the computer, we can spend those years learning how the world works. We can spend that time becoming experts in the domains that actually matter to the survival of our species. If I were a student today, I would not be rushing to learn the latest JavaScript framework. I would be rushing to understand the first principles of synthetic biology. I would be studying the mechanics of carbon capture. I would be diving deep into the material science of solid-state batteries. Why? Because the AI will do the coding for me. The AI will be my expert assistant, my tireless intern, my brilliant researcher, but it cannot be the leader. It cannot decide which problem is worth the suffering. Only a human with domain expertise can do that. This shift requires a total recalibration of our educational systems and our corporate structures. At NVIDIA, we don't look for programmers anymore. We look for problem solvers who happen to use computers. We look for people who have the intellectual curiosity to cross the boundaries between disciplines. We want the person who understands both the physics of a fluid dynamic simulation and the nuances of a neural network. That cross-pollination is where the future is being built. We are entering the era of physical AI. Up until now, AI has mostly lived in the world of bits, text, images, sounds. It has been a digital entity. But the next frontier is an AI that understands the physical world. An AI that can move, that can grasp, that can navigate the messy, unpredictable reality of a factory floor or a hospital hallway. To build that, you need more than just code. You need an understanding of the omniverse. You need to understand how light bounces off a surface and how friction affects a robotic arm. You need to be a physicist as much as a computer scientist. This is why accelerated computing is the only path forward. To simulate the physical world with the fidelity required for AI to learn, you need a level of computational power that general-purpose CPUs can never provide. You need the massive parallelism of the GPU. You need a full-stack approach that integrates the chip, the system, the software, and the algorithms. This is what we have been building at NVIDIA for 30 years. We were building the foundation for an era where the computer finally understands the world it inhabits. Many people look at the speed of this revolution and feel a sense of vertigo. They see the jobs changing, the industries shifting, and they want to slow down. But you cannot slow down. The first principles of the global economy are changing. The countries and companies that embrace this intelligence revolution will leapfrog ahead. Those that try to protect the old way of doing things, the manual coding, the slow serial processes, will find themselves obsolete. This is the urgency of run, don't walk. In the old world, you could afford to be a follower. You could wait for a technology to mature and then adopt it. But in the world of AI, the feedback loops are so fast that the leader gets better at an exponential rate. Every bit of data the AI processes makes it smarter. Every problem it solves makes it more capable of solving the next one. If you are not in the game today, the gap between you and the leaders will become unbridgeable tomorrow. At NVIDIA, we operate as if we are always 30 days away from going out of business. Even now, with the world's most advanced technology and $1 trillion valuation, I wake up with that same sense of desperate survival I had at Denny's. Why? Because the moment you think you have arrived, you stop innovating. The moment you think you are safe, you lose the edge that made you successful. You have to maintain that startup soul, that willingness to pivot, and that humility to admit that what worked yesterday will not work tomorrow. We have built a flat structure because I want the truth to travel at the speed of light. In most companies, the truth has to go through layers of managers who want to look good for their bosses. By the time the information gets to the CEO, it has been filtered, sanitized, and distorted. I don't want the sanitized version. I want the raw, messy, first principles truth. I want to know why a chip is failing. I want to know why a model isn't converging. I want to know what the pain is. If you can build a culture where everyone is a leader, where everyone feels the urgency of the mission, and where the end of computer science is seen as the beginning of human creativity, you will be the ones who define the next century. We are moving toward a world where the most valuable commodity is not land or oil or even gold. The most valuable commodity is inference. It is the ability to take a massive amount of data and turn it into a decision, a prediction, or a creation. And we are building the factories that produce that inference. These AI factories will be the most important infrastructure of the 21st century. They will power our cities, our transport, our healthcare, and our education. But as we build this future, we must never lose sight of why we are doing it. We aren't building AI just to build AI. We are building it to solve the unsolvable. We are building it to give every human on Earth a brilliant companion who can help them reach their full potential. We are building it to democratize intelligence. In the past, if you wanted to change the world, you had to have a massive amount of capital or a massive army. Today, you only need a vision and a connection to the intelligence factory. The power to change the world is now in the hands of the domain expert who has the courage to lead. So, as you leave here today, I want you to reconsider your path. If you are a student, don't just study coding. Study the world. Study the things that matter to you, the things that keep you up at night, the things you want to fix. Use the AI as your engine, but be the one who decides where the car is going. If you are a leader, stop managing and start envisioning. Break down the silos in your organization. Get to the first principles of your business. Realize that your competition is not just the company across the street. It is the person who is using AI to reinvent your entire industry from scratch. This is the most exciting time to be alive. We are the generation that gets to witness the end of computer science and the birth of a new era of human empowerment. We are the ones who get to collaborate with the most powerful invention in history to solve the most difficult problems in history. But it requires you to be brave. It requires you to embrace the suffering of the new. It requires you to be humble enough to learn a new language, the language of intention. The future is not a destination we are traveling toward. It is something we are actively inferring right now. Every line of AI-generated code, every simulated experiment in the Omniverse, every breakthrough in accelerated computing is a step toward a world we could only dream of 30 years ago. Don't wait for the world to change. Be the one who changes it. Don't wait for the right time. The right time was yesterday. The next best time is right now. Take your domain expertise, combine it with the power of accelerated computing, and build the work of your life. Build the thing that didn't exist before you got here. Build the thing that makes the world better for the next generation. It won't be easy. You will fail. You will face adversity. You will be 30 days away from your own version of bankruptcy. And in those moments, I want you to remember the dishwasher at Denny's. I want you to remember that excellence is found in the low work as much as the high work. I want you to find the resilience to stay the course. The revolution is here. The tools are in your hands. The intelligence factory is online. Now go, create, innovate, lead. The world is moving at the speed of light. Run, don't walk.